Immanuel Kant was an 18th century German philosopher who formulated an ethical theory that is deontological. Deontology contrasts with teleological ethical theories, which focus on the ends or goals of our actions in determining what is right and what is wrong. Utilitarianism, for instance, that promotes the greatest happiness. But Kant's deontology takes duty as the fundamental moral concept. For Kant, in order to act morally, we must be acting from duty. And to act from duty means that we are doing what we are obligated to do, regardless of how we feel about it. For instance, we might have a duty to visit a sick relative, even if we'd rather stay home and watch a good film. When we are truly acting from duty, we are acting on the motive of a good will. A good will is the only thing that is intrinsically good. It is what gives our actions moral worth. And to explain what this means, Kant uses the example of a shopkeeper. Now, a shopkeeper surely has a moral duty to treat his customers fairly. For instance, he wouldn't overcharge some customers when he thinks he can get away with it. And imagine our shopkeeper does do that. He doesn't overcharge people whatsoever. But the reason that he does that is self-interested, because he doesn't want to build up a bad reputation for overcharging customers. Now, that shopkeeper, he's acting in accordance with duty, because he's doing what duty would say that he should do, but he's not acting from duty. He's not doing it from the motive of a good will. To do it from the motive of a good will means that he should be doing it for duty's own sake, but he's actually doing it for self-interested reasons, and therefore his action does not have moral worth. Kant distinguishes between categorical and hypothetical imperatives. Moral duties take the form of categorical imperatives. Now, an imperative is just a command. So the imperative, if I want to get better at basketball, I ought to practice regularly. That is a hypothetical imperative, because the command practice regularly is dependent upon the hypothesis that I want to get better at basketball. Imagine I don't care about basketball, I don't like basketball. Well, then the imperative wouldn't apply to me. Categorical imperatives, on the other hand, they state what you categorically must do. They are binding on us, they are unconditional. So keep your promises, visit your sick relatives. These are categorical imperatives. For Kant, moral duties take the form of categorical imperatives. Underlying all categorical imperatives is the supreme principle of morality, the categorical imperative. And this can be expressed in three different ways. I'm going to focus on the most important two in this video. So the first one is the universal law of nature formula, which states act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Now, what this is a test. And so basically we formulate a maxim. So a maxim is the action we're proposing to do and the circumstances surrounding it. And then we universalize that maxim, which means we imagine everyone doing it. Imagine it was the done thing, it's a universal law that everybody does that thing. And then if that universalized maxim contradicts reason, it's therefore morally impermissible. If it passes the test, then it's morally fine. Now, this may seem a little bit confusing, but basically, Kant, instead of grounding morality in happiness, like the utilitarians, or human nature, like Aquinas, he grounds it in reason. As a result, for Kant, moral requirements are requirements of reason. And so to do something immoral is to be acting contrary to reason. And this also means that because reason is universal, therefore moral duties are universal and they are objective. Now, there are two ways in which a maxim can fail the universal law of nature test, and that is by being either a contradiction in conception or a contradiction in the will. So imagine I attempt to acquire money on a false promise. So I say to you, give me a tenner, I'll pay you back tomorrow. But I have no intention of paying you back tomorrow. Now, is that a moral thing to do or not? Well, first we have to imagine a world in which everybody makes false promises in order to acquire money. And then we see if that passes the test. Kant says it wouldn't pass the test for the same reason that you can't conceive of something like a four-sided triangle. And this is because if we all try to acquire money on false promises, we would all know that everybody tries to acquire money on false promises, and as a result, we would never give anyone money when they said, give me a tenner, I'll pay you back tomorrow. As a result, can we imagine a world in which we acquire money on a false promise? No, we can't. We can't conceive of it, because such a world, it would never happen. No one would ever get money that way, because we'd know that everybody was basically lying. Now imagine I see someone over there who really needs help, and I could easily help them, but I don't want to. Now, is it immoral for me to not help them? Well, Kant says, yes it is, this also fails the test for a different reason. This is a contradiction in the will, and the reason it's a contradiction in the will is because Kant says any rational agent would want to be helped if they were in the position of this person that needs help, which means I'm willing two contradictory things at the same time, because if I was them, I would want help. But at the same time, I'm willing not to help someone who needs help. In short, if your universalized maxim passes the test, it's fine, go ahead, and if it fails the test because it contradicts reason in either of those two ways, then it's morally impermissible. The formula of the end in itself says, act as to treat humanity, whether in your own person or in that of any other, never solely as a means, but always as an end. To treat someone as a means is to use them for your own advantage, and to treat someone as an end is to respect them. We can still use people in a sense. So imagine like a taxi driver. I'm using the taxi driver in a sense to get to somewhere, but I'm still treating them as an end. They've fully chosen to do that job. I'm using their services, and I can still respect them as the autonomous agent that they are. But if I were to force someone to drive me somewhere, then that would be treating them as a means and not as an end. So the principle is that we must treat people as ends, not as mere means. Now, if you look at our examples from earlier, lying in order to acquire money and refusing to help people who need help when we could easily help them, well, that's not respecting them. So this formula seemingly gets the same results as the universal law of nature formula, and this is why Kant says that they are two different ways of expressing the same formula. So that's it for this video. I hope that has been helpful. I have a whole series of Kant videos. Some of the things here are a little bit confusing and I've gone over them quickly, but I have a whole series which covers all of these topics in more detail, as well as some extra things as well. So have a look at that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.